It's not, we actually don't use any ML or AI in our platform right now because the way we looked at it, we didn't think it makes sense. So it's really making a very complex issue as simple as possible. And also with our customers, with the brands that we're speaking with, is if you start speaking too complex to them and it takes a lot of effort for them to implement it, you will lose them very quickly. So we actually went the route that we kept thinking, how can we make it the most simple way? Meaning, we thought about owning the whole stack, so also the last mile. We realized the unit economics don't make sense, and it also might become very complex for the clients. So the way we thought about it is our platform essentially is a mid-layer API, so that we took care of all the plumbing and piping, that we connected all the retailers with the SKUs, and is really the complexity of it was that it was a lot of work taking a lot of different data points and trying to create as simple as possible one mid-layer API layer that can then easily be connected into all the paid media intersections of our customers. So I think sorry to disappoint you, but there's no cutting edge, AI that I can talk about, but I think that is really what we took advantage of is that all of the technological advancement that has happened and taking all of these complex data points and making it into one simple API layer. I think that was the hard part for us.
I actually think it doesn't disappoint me at all. I think it's super interesting that such different industries decided to take the same approach, that in order to really own the customer, you have to deeply integrate with your clients. You're giving them a full software solution to manage the order and the inventory, and you're connecting to their stores, you're understanding their inventory levels as well. But of course, you can't talk about this without talking about data. Some people say data is the new oil. So why is the data so valuable? At the end of the day, we're talking about orders of steel in your case. In your case, I mean, I'm being cynical on purpose, but I obviously understand it's valuable. But can you explain to us what is the data that you're collecting? Why is it important? And how are you sort of like keeping it secure also in face of constantly changing regulations?
Yeah, data will probably change our industry tremendously, but because the issue in the industry like steel, but this is also true for other industries, chemicals and so on, is that there is no seamless data flow from the producers through the distributors to the customers. And because of this, for instance, we have to stock all this steel in our sites. We have 170 sites, and we are stocking currently more than 1 million tons of steel. The Eiffel Tower is, I think, 7,000 tons. So you can imagine how much steel we have to stock because we don't know what our customers need. There is no prediction concerning concerning current needs. And with data, when everything is not a pipeline platform anymore, when all participants would be connected, we would need much less steel stocked around worldwide, and we also would need much less logistics in steel. So steel is shipped around every day. Millions of tons are shipped around because there is no data available, and this will have a tremendous influence on the impact on the steel industry, because with this we also need much less distribution assets, and we even will need much less of our Klöckner warehouses, for instance, because when we have much more data concerning predictive sales, then we can ship much more steel also directly. So we disrupting with this XOM platform also our core business if successful. So there is a tremendous change potential.
Interesting.
So for us, it's as I mentioned earlier, the really big when it comes to data for us is it really is a data play, because we're allowing CPG brands mainly most of the times for the first time in their marketing approaches to collect true first-party PII data, meaning first name, last name, email, and address. And also, more importantly, the information of what they're buying, where they're buying it, and when they're buying it. So most of our clients are a bit overwhelmed with that, because it's the first time that they can build true CRM rather than just doing some, collecting first-party data through giveaways or through tickets that they're giving away, or anything like that. So it's like a true first-party data of consumers that are buying their product, and also being able to put that into CDPs rather than buying lookalikes and retargeting like that. They can take their actual consumers and retarget it, and also build a direct relationship with them and try to figure out, what else are they buying, when do they want to buy other products that they have. So that's very, very interesting for them. And as you were touching on it, it's also interesting for us as it's really becoming the new oil. So a lot of people are talking about data supply chain management. So that's a very interesting part as well that we speak with a lot of our our clients as they're asking us, as they start thinking more about that, and especially as some of our clients are asking us to deploy our platform in other markets, meaning in Europe, with the happening of GDPR. Of course, that's a very big point that a lot of people want to talk about as well, that you have to make sure that you're GDPR compliant and that you can take care of that.
So obviously I'm happy for your clients because they're receiving this awesome data, but doesn't it create a privacy concern that for the first time now Pepsi knows that I'm buying their product and they can target me, so I'll keep seeing Pepsi everywhere I go?
Yeah, you can definitely argue that. And again, we can only advise our clients as good as we can what to do with that data. If they, I would argue, want to be that stupid and go and target someone 10 times a day, that's on them. But I would hope that they're smart enough to know how to be respectful with that first-party data. But around privacy, I think it's definitely interesting, and we're very big advocates of it, where we believe in what is happening with GDPR. It might be a bit overreaching, but I think it's definitely only an if and not when it's going to come to the US. I mean, for example, you have CalPRIF, who just went through, which was going to happen in California. So I think it's definitely something that a lot of, not just brands, but everybody is going to have to speak a lot more. And like, when you think of it, when we speak about it internally, we always say it's a little bit as in the early 90s, when everybody started purchasing things online and you started using credit cards online, where today it's unthinkable, but back then it was all cookie data where it was in plain text and you could just get, the data information. We think that first-party data is going to be treated more and more the way, credit card data is being looked at today.
So I think it's really like we can talk an hour just about data and data privacy and the issues with data, but just moving on, we all operate within an industry and within the wider tech context. I want to hear a little bit of disagreement because we've been agreeing a lot on this panel. Are we in a bubble?
In a bubble?
Yeah.
Concerning the valuations or concerning the industry?
In the market, the market has the longest bull run.
I think
3,000 days, I think.
Yeah, but when you look to, so I'm of course more focused on B2B markets, but when you look to the B2B markets and how underdeveloped they are, and not only in the steel and metals industry, also as mentioned, for instance, chemicals, paper, you can take every industry. There is so much potential going forward that I don't think that we are in a bubble. So we have here for the next decades, we have to do, and we have to develop platforms. And so the platform era or platform ecosystems in B2B doesn't really exist today. So there is maybe this Amazon, this cross-industry, or Alibaba cross-industry platform, but there are not. So we were most recently we are in the first, as mentioned, in the first funding round, and we were also in the Silicon Valley, and all the guys like Andreessen Horowitz or Excel or so, they always saying, look, we had no other company like you here before. We have to make ourselves or Peter Thiel saying, yeah, look, I know a lot of B2C and tech, but this is new to me. So I have to make myself familiar with this. And this shows how much potential we have here going forward, and therefore I would not say that we are in a bubble.
I would agree with you, but just on that point, you already finalized the round, or you're still fundraising?
No, we haven't. So we haven't soft pitch so far. So when you are interested, we start our
There's still
hard
room for
pitching
you.
in a few weeks from now. But we are more media. So,
I'm just
Let's
curious.
make it interesting. Let's agree on terms right now here.
No. But I'm just curious as to the bubble question. You go to the Valley, traditional company, $1 billion revenue in digital. You know, if we are in a bubble, it should be very easy to fundraise for the company right now. But you're saying that they are asking questions and challenging it.
There are a lot of different parties, by the way. So we don't want to. We want to have a mix of strategic investors, which and maybe growth and maybe venture capital. We don't need that much money, so it's a bit an issue with the tickets. They are not really very big. But we want to have. But the interest is relatively big. I currently would say today, maybe the very generic venture capital company is too early. But venture capital companies who coming more from growth capital and who have more industry insight. Maybe it's more interesting for them. But to be honest, 4 years ago, I mentioned that I made my first Silicon Valley tour in 2014, and there I met also people like Mark Andreessen, Jim Breyer, and so on. And at that point in time, B2B was not really on their agenda at all. No? So things are moving, but it will finally, I think, not be problem to close.
Very optimistic view. I'm very bullish. I like it. But are we in a bubble?
I will actually somewhat disagree. I mean, I think everything you said is true. If you look at the underlying fundamentals, especially B2B, I think there's still a lot of opportunity. But I want to say consumer facing, I do think that we are in a little bit of a bubble. There's a lot of valuations, especially in the US, that I think are way overpriced. I think there's still a lot of capital going into startups, especially in the US, where I see a lot of companies getting seed rounds. And actually, I think I should differentiate. I think it's there's a lot of money still going into seed rounds. But what I have noticed, I do think that raising Series A's has become more difficult. Series A's have become much bigger over the last 8 years since I've been in the startup community. 8 years ago, a Series A was, let's call it 2 to 5 million. Today, a Series A starts at 5 million and goes up to 15 million, which I think the rounds have become much bigger, but therefore VCs are also looking at a lot more traction. Do you have the right team? Have you hit, your market fit? So I think raising Series A's have become more difficult, and I think the market will always correct itself, or it's become more difficult to raise Series A. So you see a lot of companies that have an easy time raising a seed round, but then you see a lot of companies also dying and closing after. So I do think that you see as somewhat a market correction. And then at the same time, I always believe that the companies that are solving something that people really need and there's real usage for it, they will always find capital, and the other ones, they will die.
So we in the context of operating with in the market with other companies and companies trying to attach themselves to traction or find clients to use their solutions on, you probably get approached by a lot of startups that want to work with you or add their services. Like, how do you look at innovation in the organization? Is it a purely internal thing, we do everything, or do you work with others on the outside? And what's been successful models for bringing innovation?
Yeah, we are working together with a couple of startups because we are focusing only on the core currently of this marketplace, and we are working together, for instance, with startups for payments, for logistics. So we are also investing in this kind of.
Can you mention names just so for people get validation if they're talking to those companies to see good, bad?
Yeah, in payment is, I forgot the name now, but so there's a well-known startup.
Adyen,
probably Stripe or Braintree.
Stripe,
for instance. But okay, they are already bigger. No? So, but we are working also with smaller ones together, and we are also investing in startups. So we have also a venture arm and investing in startups, but we are investing only in startups who can contribute something to the platform idea. But the biggest challenge, what I'm seeing when startups working together with corporates, is really that the pace of this two different companies is so different, and this is a huge challenge. And I've seen also a lot of collaborations between corporate and startup which fail because of this. The sales cycle of a corporate is much longer. They speak a completely different language. The corporate is more working in the waterfall model. The startup is coming from the MVP side. And what my recommendation is for corporates, for instance, is they need like Klöckner.ai, they need something like a digital hub in between. And as translator, but they have to position also the digital hub accordingly. So the digital hub has to be on the one side, the digital hub needs a certain independence, but not too much, because otherwise the digital hub cannot leverage the assets the corporates has on the other side. And this is a challenge, I think, the right balance then of the digital hub, and then connect the startups to this digital hub. And this, in my point of view, works.
So you integrate service providers, you invest in startups, you...
For instance, invested in Big Wrap. This is a startup for 3D printing, and which is on the other side an interesting technology for the platform itself. Because in steel and 3D printing in steel and also plastics is an interesting innovation going forward also in our industry.
Cool. Have you developed everything in-house, or how do you...
So not everything. Of course, we actually work with Stripe and Braintree as well as the payment gates. Unfortunately, we're not as big as Klöckner yet.
Yeah.
So for us, working with other startups, it's working with equals or larger, like Braintree or Stripe, of course, bigger. And we work with a lot on the data side. We work with a lot of equals, mainly being CDPs. So companies like mParticle, for example, that we share a lot of the same clients. And we are very friendly with each other. So a lot of times we speak with each other and we collectively tell the big brands on how, by working with them and working with us, how it makes both products stronger.
Can you tell a success story of something that, you do probably a lot of advertising on Instagram, trying to reach people to shop in different, like how something that you figured out that was as a result of one of these collaborations?
Yeah, actually, just recently, one of the larger investors in the U.S. who we were speaking with, just as soft circling if we want to start thinking about our Series A. So he sent me a screenshot of a campaign on Instagram by one of our clients. And he sent it to me and he asked me if that was powered by us, that he really enjoyed it because he said, it was very on target. He actually felt like that product in that moment, he was able to put in his address, his credit card and name, very seamless. And he said within 2 to 3 minutes, without ever leaving Instagram, he had ordered the product and it was delivered 25 minutes later. Because we're white labeled, he didn't know if it's us or not, but him sending me that screenshot on a weekend and me being able to say, yes, that was actually all powered by us. So that was a great validation.
Very cool. We have 5 minutes left, so I want to just poll the audience. Any questions that you guys, burning questions you'd like to ask? Raise your hand, don't be shy. Yes. There we go. Introduce yourself, please.
Yes, hi. My name is Amor Maclang from the Philippines. I'm directing this to Mr. Calderon. Do you imagine that e-commerce for fast-moving consumer goods brands is now the new digital marketing? You know how a few years ago everyone was in the digital marketing bandwagon, social media that is, but now it seems like more and more brands are looking at e-commerce.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question. I always encourage them to not just look at it as another marketing channel. You really have to consider it as its own channel. I think that's a big mistake that a lot of CPG brands make when, as I was saying earlier, when they started working with us and they say they're so overwhelmed with the performance, where we explain to them, it takes a lot of time to build those muscles. If you look at the big brands, again, like I say, like Nike, we always like to use them as an example because 10 years ago, they had nothing either, and it took them a lot of time to build it, but now they created a whole new channel to interact directly with their consumers, get them on their apps to buy the products, selling out on limited releases. So you really have to look at this as building up a whole new channel, and you have to have that mindset that it's going to take years to see that return and really building it. But if you don't, you're never going to own the consumer digitally.
Anyone else? Yep, a few more. Just ask the questions in sequence, and then ask the question, and we can answer in sequence. We have another one over there, Tal.
Hi.
So,
I run a chatbot building platform.
can you speak closer to the mic?
Hi.
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. So I'm Vic. I run a chatbot building platform in Thailand, and we're focused on social commerce. So it's a big part of e-commerce over there, and I'm wondering where you see chatbots fit in the e-commerce chain.
Got it. Chatbots. Mark that question.
So for me, I
Wait.
think
We're going to get all the
okay.
questions first, and then we'll answer. Yeah.
So, hello, I'm Chrysotheos from Cyprus. I'd like a comment on Instagram. There's a rumor that they are going to release a new app for e-commerce, which is a huge thing, I suppose. So I'd like a comment on that, basically.
Okay, chatbots, Instagram, one more over here. Anyone else raise your hand now? Because we won't have time otherwise.
Hi. I was going to ask about social commerce too, because you said you have no AI today and the chatbots are very important to this practice.
Okay, I'm not sure I got what the question was though. Chatbots.
Yeah, no. So to be very clear, when I say that we don't have AI, I mean in our infrastructure layer platform, which is our main product. But as I say, so that we enable our clients to also turn their paid media into a direct response purchase. So that can be either an ad on Instagram, or it can also be a chatbot. For example, one of the products that we have is a chatbot that as they start building the CRMs and get also numbers, they can reach out directly to their consumers, and they can say like, oh, if you have a party here and there, text back, what is it that you want to buy? And by location, we can tell you where the nearest available product is, and you can order it. So that is something that we offer as well. Regarding Instagram, as you can imagine, since it's so big and everywhere today, we have a very close relationship. We're an official, Instagram marketing partner. So the head of partnerships, Jeff, in San Francisco, we regularly speak with them, with their commerce team. So there's a lot of things happening there that I can't really talk about because we're under NDA, but I think there's a lot of interesting things happening there that we're definitely making sure that we're part of that.
So the answer is yes. Any chatbots or Instagram comments?
Chatbots and Instagram is for the steel industry, even if we try to innovate, maybe a bit too early. No? So I will keep up with him, and we will see how this works going forward.
You can make steel sexy on Instagram. Look at those sheets of steel. Selfie face. So I think with that, our time is up. Thank you very much for an awesome panel. We got the room full, so the testament to you guys. Please give them a big round of applause.